Welcome to Tech Talks. Our security edition today is focused on finding the right security content with Splunk Security Essentials. As a brief reminder, Splunk's Tech Talk is a series of short webinars that are deep dives for technical practitioners. We value our customers and want you to continue in your Splunk journey. Our experts help create these best practices, and we want you to leverage them in your daily role. I'm Amy Hay, the lead security product marketer for Splunk Security Essentials. Joining me in this session is Johan Birke. Johan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Everyone, I'm Johan Bjerke, a principal security strategist. I've been with Splunk for 7 years, and I'm one of the main owners of the Security Essentials app.
Today, we are going to introduce or reintroduce, for those who are already slightly familiar with SSE, to what Splunk Security Essentials is, and show you a demo of the solution that navigates through the security content library, showcasing detections and playbooks you can bookmark and deploy, and how to create custom detections and enrich them with metadata. Our team will be available for Q&A throughout over the Q&A feature. So if you watch a recorded version of this webinar, please continue the conversation through Splunk community website for any follow-up questions. Now let's talk about Splunk Security Essentials, also popularly known as SSE. Splunk Security Essentials has been around for a number of years now, but the best news is it is now a fully supported Splunk app, so long as you have an active Splunk Cloud license. Don't worry, it's still free to install on Splunk Base. The app can help you strengthen your security strategy, and security teams of all sizes and maturity levels trust and use the app daily to bolster their security detections in Splunk Cloud, Splunk SIEM, and SOAR offerings. This means that you're going to get faster time to value with your Splunk investment for security with Splunk Security Essentials. With Splunk Security Essentials, there's a number of things that you can do. One thing that we will be focusing on today is how to use the security content library as your one-stop shop for detections, analytic stories, and playbooks for Splunk Cloud, Enterprise Security, UEBA, and Phantom. The library pulls from the latest detections from the Splunk threat research team, so you'll always stay up to date on the things that are happening, such as I mentioned, CLOP ransomware, or even DarkSide. The ES use case library is also populated and maintained by SSE. Other things that you can do with Splunk Security Essentials that we'll cover in later Tech Talks is how to operationalize MITRE ATT&CK and the cyber kill chain frameworks to identify gaps, improve threat detections, and reduce risk. We'll also show you in later sessions how to use the data and content introspection to track data and save searches to gain visibility. We'll also showcase a little bit briefly here the security data journey to develop a maturity roadmap with security and data recommendations. Now let's jump into the reason why you're joining this call today, the demo. Johan, I'll pass it over to you.
So we're now inside the Security Essentials app, as you can see here. So it's available as an app on Splunk Base. And when you launch the app, you're greeted with these 4 options. And we're going to focus mainly on the find content part for this particular demo. So if you click on find content, you're then greeted with 4 other options where you can pick type of content that you'd like. So I'm going to just pick the first one here, security monitoring, which will take you to the security content page. So this page, which you can also find here in the menu, is probably the most important one in the whole app. It lists all the content that we currently have in the environment in front of us. And you can see here now we'll filter down on 13 use cases. So that's security monitoring that have the featured flag enabled. So basically 13 things that we think that any customer should be using. But we also see here that there is 751 pieces of content inside Security Central. So it's quite a lot of things here. So let me click on the default button here. See, I'm going to enable all of those so we can have a look at them. I'm going to click on stage 6. So when you have 751 things available to you, the way you navigate this becomes increasingly important. And that's why we have a set of drop-downs that allow you to filter this down. You can also do a free text search here, of course, as well, if you want to. But if I go through some of these to explain, so the journey here is describing the maturity level we think the customer should be at before they're using this use case. So if you want to do the really basic stuff, go stage 1. And if you want to do more advanced stuff, move up to stage 3 and 4. You can read more about the security journey by clicking on this drop down here. You can read more about what we mean here. We also have, say, categories. If you want to look at, say, specific, say, compliance or data exfiltration. So there's a categorization of the content there. We also have something called the analytics story. And this is a concept that is created by the security research team. So whenever they release new content, they tend to group them together in analytical stories. And these are a little bit deeper, a little bit more technical. And you can, for instance, see if you're interested in clock ransomware or cloud crypto mining or Cobalt Strike or things like that, you're going to filter the content to these specific analytical stories. You can also look at data sources and things like that. So if you want to have content that is matching a particular data source like antivirus or AWS, you can filter that down here. However, we do have plenty of other drop-downs available to you if you just click on the edit button, because there's so many ways you can cut down these pieces of content. And I think it's necessary to have all of these just by the fact that I have so much to show you. So I'm going to select a few that I think are really important. So let's pick the threat groups. That's also a MITRE ATT&CK concept. Let's take availability. Let's take content enabled, industry mapping. And let's pick, say, originating app and bookmark. I think those are quite important. So going through these, and of course, there's more of these. If you want to find out what these actually mean, you can hover over the tooltip here. You get a bit of a description of what these things actually mean. So the technique, the MITRE ATT&CK framework is incredibly popular with our customer base. So you should get yourself a little bit familiar with what that is, because most of your customers will be using this. So a technique is an attack technique that a malicious individual or malicious organization will use against you. So we can filter down the content here for things that we have that will detect or mitigate those techniques in your environment. So if you want to detect these type of things, you can then filter it down using it. So this is very, very granular, and there's hundreds of these techniques. So many times customers communicate via these technique IDs only. So when you're reading a threat report, for instance, about a new threat coming out, they might say that these 5 techniques are linked to this particular type of threat. So that's how you use those. We also have threat groups. So these are malicious organizations or groups that tend to do bad things against you. So it happens sometimes that a customer is particularly interested in one of these, so APT29 or I don't know, Menu Pass or Copy Kittens or Carbonac was quite popular lately. So if you want to filter down content that is specifically designed to detect these groups, then you use this dropdown. You can also use data availability to check what content can I deploy in my environment or not. So you can filter them by good or bad here. You can also check what content is enabled in your environment. There we go. So only one is enabled in this environment. And you can also use industry mapping, which I think is quite interesting. So if your customers do not know at all where to start, they can just focus on filtering down the content based on an industry they're in. So this will essentially filter down content that we know are relevant to that particular industry. You can also filter, oops, there we go. Cut that part out. We can also filter this content here to see where it came from, because Security Central essentially brings together content from multiple different sources. The biggest one here is the Enterprise Security Content Update, which is coming from our security research team. We also have the default content that ships with ES, Enterprise Security. And we also have playbooks in Phantom, which you can view and basically essentially promote Phantom here. Some of these playbooks will be linked to specific detections because we think you should deploy this playbook whenever you get an alert for that detection. Security Essentials and UBA is content here that's available as well. And if you want to know at any given time which version of the content you have, you can always click on configuration here, configuration, and then update content. You're going to see that in this environment, we're running the Security Research Team Content Pack 3.22.0. And if you want to read more specifically about this one, you can click on the release notes, and that will then take you to the GitHub page where you can see that this came out 10 days ago. This is Jose Hernandez. He's in the research team. And these are the detections that came with this particular content update, right? So if you want to read more about that, that's how you find that. Yeah. But let's see if we can navigate this and see if we find something. So if I click on industry mapping, I'm going to pick on something. Let's pick on, say, aerospace. So say your customer is interested in aerospace stuff. You can filter down this list. So it used to be 751. Now it's 31 things left. You can also bookmark these directly here. So say you're interested in working with these and enabling them. You can either click here, like bookmarking these, or you can scroll to the bottom of the list and just click on bookmark all, which basically adds a bookmark on all the aerospace content. And the bookmarking is very useful if you want to work your way through these detections. So if you go into manage bookmarks, you can then see that you have those 30 things, or it might be 31 things here, I think, because one was already bookmarked from before. And then you can work your way through these. You can make notes, for instance, write things. You can also move them across the different statuses here until they reach successfully implemented. So you need to basically do certain things to enable them, and then you can move that across here. So they will then be marked as enabled. If I pick one here, let's pick the basic scanning one. To expand that out, you can actually read about the use case here as well. And you can click on open. That will subsequently open this particular one. And this is really how you enable a piece of content and look into what it actually does. So the content comes with, this particular one is a detection, right? So it comes with a description of what it does. The alert volume is low. It's relatively basic one. It is linked to these MITRE techniques, and these threat groups are known to be using this technique, and it uses network communication as a data source. And you can also see the actual search string down there. It's important to know as well that a lot of these detections come in different versions. So SSE ships with demo data, which is wonderful when you want to do demos, but that's not the one you want to deploy in your environment. So I'm going to flip this to the live data version. So essentially reloading the page, but with a slightly different SPO query. You can also pick the accelerated one. Some of these detections have a version that is linked to a data model. So if you have data models, you should pick this one. I'm going to scroll down here. You can see that Security Essentials detects that you have the data. So you have firewall data, you have the dest and dest port fields which are required for this detection. And you can see that we found things. So I'm going to click on detect. You can see that we actually detected a few hosts that seems to be doing port scanning. That's what this particular detection is doing. So 15 hosts. And then you can subsequently click on save scheduled search. I do that. What we're doing here is that we are enabling this particular use case. You can change the timings of this. You can run it every hour if you want to. And these are the types of actions that we want to execute whenever this one fires. So send to UBA, I think I'm going to remove that one. You can see that we pre-configured the risk analysis. So we will add 60 to the source IP. So whenever a source is having behavior that indicates a port scan, we will then add 60 risk score to that host. We're also going to create a notable event inside Enterprise Security when this fires. So you can stay there. All right, and if you then want to continue editing this particular notable event inside Enterprise Security, you can click on the continue editing here. I'm going to move along there. Okay, so you can also create custom content inside Security Essentials. So you don't have to use the step that we have pre-built. You can also add things here yourself. So say if you've written your own correlation search and you want that to appear here, or you want that to appear in all the reporting that we have in Security Essentials, which I will show you shortly, You can add custom content here under security content, custom content. Oh, cut that up. Okay, so you can see I've added 4 custom rules here already, and these are linked to AWS data sources. If I expand this one out, this particular one is running inside AWS, so not really touching Splunk, but you might want to have that in here in order to do reporting to say that you have a specific MITRE technique or a specific kill chain covered with some form of security control, even though that control might not be inside Splunk. So this is one of those. So if I open that up, you can actually open that up in the same way as you open up any other card. You can see that it's linked to certain things here, but there is no SPL search string for this one, and that's just because it's not actually running inside Splunk. But that's okay. The way you can report on these use cases can be found under Analytics Advisor, which is incredibly popular inside the app. I'm going to open up this one here. And this dashboard will show you the same amount of content you had before, but it will visualize them in a way that is relevant to people that use the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Because here we talk about techniques and groups and tactics and all that kind of stuff. And specifically, we have something called a MITRE ATT&CK matrix, where we visualize this content. And as you can see here, I have one active content, and that is the custom content I showed you on the previous screen is actually the one that's active, because we marked that as active. So that is running here. And here you can see that we are showcasing in the matrix all the content we have in the current repository. So we have a lot of coverage on some cells. That means the darker the blue, the more the coverage we have. But maybe more importantly, you can also show which is the content that you can enable with data that you currently have. Since we know that certain data sources exist in the environment, this could be your potential coverage if you just enabled all the detections that we have for the data that you have. And if I then flip to, say, active, you can see that this single one that I have enabled is mapped to a few, I think it's mapped to account manipulation and create accounts. So if I click on that and you scroll down, I'll flip that to active. You can see that this is the custom rule that we've added in, is actually visualized directly inside the MITRE matrix here. So this is another way of visualizing and reporting on the content you have. And this is a fantastic way of doing white space analysis, but also reporting how good you're doing or what kind of coverage and what kind of risk level you're exposing yourself to. Okay, that was a bit of an overview of the security essentials around security content, around how you use the bookmarking feature, and also how you add and use the custom content inside the app. So thank you so much, and over to Amy again.
Thanks, Johan, for this great demo, and thanks everyone for joining. Now, before you guys leave, I will have some key takeaways for you, and yeah, let's dive in. So one, don't hesitate to give Splunk Security Essentials a try. It's a free app to install on Splunk Base, and it's fully supported if you have a Splunk Cloud license. Let's know that we're constantly updating and building on the app. So you'll see that there's pre-built detections and analytic stories that will fit your need and whatever is happening in the world today, including things like dark side or clock, for example. And of course, with Splunk Security Essentials, you'll be able to bolster your security detections within minutes and see why, and then you can start seeing why organizations of all sizes trust and use the app daily to start improving their security posture and gaining faster time to value with their Splunk investment for security. Of course, before we wrap up, we have some additional resources so you can continue with your Splunk journey. So one, we have a well-documented documentation site. And we also have a couple of videos that you can check out to get an even better overview of Splunk Security Essentials. We have a couple of blog posts as well. So feel free to check those out as well. And don't forget to continue the conversation on community.splunk.com. Sign up or sign in to our community and check out the Splunk Answers page and search for the tag Security Essentials to view and share best practices. Continue the discussion and view the Splunk Tech Talk section for security. And of course, ideas. If you have any ideas, search, or you want to vote or even request enhancements, please let us know. We're always here to listen. So yeah, and thank you so much for joining, and make sure to check out our other Splunk Security Essentials Tech Talks in the future.